More on this to start us off this morning is Dr. Isaac Bogoch. He's a member of Ontario's COVID-19 Vaccine Distribution Task Force, and he's an infectious disease specialist. Dr. Bogoch, good morning. So what do you think about the approach being taken by the province of Ontario?
I'm cautious. I'm concerned. I'm nervous. Obviously, it has to be done in a very careful manner. It has to be done in a very slow manner. I think regardless of what steps are taken, we have to ask ourselves, if we see a plateau in cases, or if we see cases start to rise, will they use this? They call it an emergency brake function. Will they use this emergency brake to rapidly pivot and to rapidly change regardless of the color code? Because quite frankly, we know this infection can explode in different populations. We're in the era of variants of concern that are more transmissible. So regardless of the color code, I really hope that they take that seriously and don't allow for any rise in cases. We've got to keep those community cases headed in the right direction, which they're headed in right now, and we'll be okay if we can do that.
Okay, so do we know when the emergency brake will be applied? Is it the cases going up? Is it the percent positivity? What is it that would make the province put the brakes on again?
Yeah, so there's very clear metrics with the color coding scheme when
Yes.
you can move from, either up or down. But the emergency brake function is really interesting because I think it's somewhat arbitrary, and it sounds like the chief medical officer of health, in consultation with the local medical officers of health, can say, you know what, regardless of the color code, we don't like the way this looks here. There might be an outbreak of a variant of concern or something like that, and they'll say, no, we've got to do something different. I think if that's applied appropriately, we'll be okay. But again, I don't want to see us in a situation where we see a plateau in cases or where we see a rise in cases. Have you dealt with the upstream drivers of transmission? Do you have the appropriate test, trace, isolate capacity in your region now to really accommodate the numbers of cases that you're seeing? Can you accommodate perhaps now travel that's going to go between different regions and perhaps introduce cases to certain regions? There's a lot of unknowns here. I think we've got to proceed very, very cautiously to not undo all the hard work that everyone in Ontario has done so far.
Very cautiously. And of course, we have to talk about the variants because that also seems to be a really big unknown. We know that they spread quickly, but how much does that fear of the variants impact what we're going to see happening in Ontario over the next couple of weeks?
So we're watching for example, the one that's called the B.1.1.7. That's also known as the variant of concern that was initially discovered in the United Kingdom, slowly encroach and slowly take over as being the more dominant variant. We've seen this happen. I mean, we're not making this up as we go along here. This has already happened in several European places, in Israel as well. So we can learn from others, and we can certainly there's a global knowledge base, and we can learn from that and apply that locally, which we should be doing. We've got to be careful. This causes bigger outbreaks, more explosive outbreaks, and it's just more challenging. It can be done. It's not like this is impossible. It's just more challenging to keep those case numbers headed in this direction. It's just a little bit more challenging to do, but of course we can do it. We have been doing it, and other places in Europe have been doing it. It's more of an effort to do.
All right, Dr. Bogoch, thanks so much for all that. Really appreciate it.